Welcome back to Destination Journey. I have a fun little project planned for us today. I'm going to be hooking up Raptor lights on my 4Runner. In addition to that though, I have ditch and fog lights by Diode Dynamic. They have an amber backlight that I'm going to be tying into those Raptor lights as well. I've been planning this project for a little while, trying to get all the wiring figured out, and I'm really excited to get started, so let's do it. Here's everything we're going to need to complete this project today. I found these relatively inexpensive Raptor lights on Amazon. They come with this great harness that has these nice waterproof connections. To make my life easier, I went ahead and ordered this pre-wired relay. So this has everything we need, the wires that run out to the lights, power wires that'll be leveraging under the dash, and then also the wire that will be running through the dash to get to the switch. It does come with its own switch, but we are not going to be leveraging this one today. We are going to be using this switch, which fits better with my 4Runner's overall look and feel. This matches kind of the factory switches that are already installed on the dash. To power this whole system, we're going to be using fuses. So the fuse box that's down by the floor, we're going to be tapping into that to get power to all the lights. Also, I want to make sure that this illuminates in the evening when it's not turned on, so I can see where that switch is. So we're going to be leveraging another fuse and tapping into the yellow wire to illuminate this in the evening. So the thing that makes this whole Raptor light setup unique is I'm going to be integrating it into my Diode Dynamic ditch light and fog light amber backlights. So each of those has a third wire that comes off of the light, and that is to illuminate a nice kind of amber light, just mainly for looks. So I haven't seen a good way to do a setup like this, so I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. But when I'm all done, it'll all run off this single switch. So I'm pretty excited to get this project started. All right, we're going to get started by installing the Raptor lights first. We're going to be putting them into these 4 slots here in the front of the 4Runner. So I believe these only go in one direction. So you got to make sure you get your clips lined up correctly. These should just push right in, just like that. All right, Raptor lights have been installed. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook in the weatherproof harness, and then we'll figure out what length we need some of this wire to be and start working on the relay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and hook into each one of these Raptor lights with our harness. Seems like a nice tight connection. All right, we'll come back to all this later and zip tie everything nice and tight to the 4Runner so nothing's wiggling around and kind of wearing on any metal or anything. Now we're going to figure out, I believe I'm going to chop this off and have the wire that's running from the relay come down and connect to this. It's just a little bit beefier casing on that other wire, so then I don't have to put wire loom on it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this relay set up. We're going to mount it right here next to our Garmin power switch, and then we can ground it right to the frame right here as well. This wire is our overall power wire. We're going to be running that down through that rubber grommet, and that'll also be accompanied by this wire, which will be running to our switch. So I'm going to clip this thing off. We don't need that. And then I'll actually be soldering these wires together to the switch itself. And then this wire here is going to be running out to our Raptor lights as well as our amber backlights on our Diode Dynamic fog and ditch lights. So before we install this relay, I want to go ahead and get the wires prepped. We need to do a couple things here. We need to splice in some wires. So I've gone ahead actually measured out what I needed to get from the relay up to the front of the 4Runner, and then I cut off all of these pre-spliced wires, and I'm going to be creating my own splices for my purposes. I'll also be cutting this off. I don't need this for the switch, so this will be running under the dash, and then this wire as well, we're going to be adding some additional wire to this, so I'm going to go ahead cut that as well. This has a nice inline fuse, so we're going to maintain that. This should work, but I'm not really happy with the quality of this ring connector, so I'm going to add my own. So I'm going to be cutting this one off as well. Great. So just doing the modifications I need to make this project successful for myself. That's your switch. So I'm going to be splicing in the 2 wires that will be connecting to the ditch lights. So I'll splice those right out on the 4Runner itself. And then I'm going to be adding a second wire that's coming off of this power wire, and that'll be spliced in also 2 different splices that'll be connecting both my ditch light power coming in for the amber backlight as well as my fog light amber backlight power. So I have a little bit of splicing to do. We'll get all that taken care of, and then we should be able to start running this wire and hooking everything up. All right, so I have already gone ahead and created this series of quick connects. This will be for my Diode Dynamic backlights. Each one of these will plug in. These will be for the fogs, and this one will be coming in from the ditch lights. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and splice together an additional wire and connect all of this together. This will then go to the Raptor lights. This will be the ground for the Raptor lights, and these 3 wires will be the power for the backlights. Last but not least, I'm going to be using this solder heat shrink. It's nice, quick, and easy. You just need a heat gun, and this actual solder will melt inside of it and fuse the wires together. So just basically take my wires, slide this thing over the top. Take these 2 wires, make sure they're together nice and tight. Slide that heat shrink right over the top of that wire. And just hit it with the heat gun. It melts the solder and connects it together. Give that a second to cool, and then we'll wrap some more heat shrink over the top of that. All right, that connection is nice and tight. Just gonna cover that up with some additional heat shrink, and our harness is ready to go. So this part of the harness is ready to go. I have all my connections, Raptor lights, and my amber backlights. All right, this harness is done. I've gone ahead, extended the power wire. I clipped off that ring connector for the power wire. That'll be running under the dash into the fuse box by the floor. Put a new ring connector on for my ground. And then this will be going to the switch. And then I have all my connections ready to hook the backlights and the Raptor lights together. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed into the vehicle. Okay, so we're going to be installing our relay using this tapped hole, and then we're going to be hooking the ground in through that tapped hole there. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so we have gone ahead and ran all our wires right to the central location. So this is where I'm going to be tying everything together. We're going to start off with the permanent connection from this is coming from the relay. This will be hooking into our Raptor lights. So I'll just be using my same heat shrink connectors to solder these together. Then from there, we have our ditch light connector. That's just going to simply plug right into here. And then I brought some heat shrink around that, and I'll just heat shrink that together. And then these are for my fog lamp backlights. So these just plug right in as well. And then I'll put some heat shrink around these just to make it a weatherproof connection. And all the stuff up front, other than, you know, wire management, is done, and we can move inside the cab. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all this connected. All right, everything has been connected. So I'll come back after I get the whole thing powered up and zip tie a lot of these wires together and get them out of the way, and then we'll close this back up. But I'm ready to move under the cab. So I need to get these two wires into the dash so I can hook up the power as well as the switch. A lot of people tap into this grommet right here and just fish it down through there. I've already popped a hole through this larger one down below to run some wiring to the back of the 4Runner. So I'm going to be leveraging that and just doing the old coat hanger trick, taping the wires to the coat hanger and fishing them through the hole that's already been popped open there. All right, we have pulled our wires through the firewall. So they're coming out right here next to the emergency brake. And then we are going to be tapping into this fuse panel for our power. And we're going to be popping out this switch here, this blank, and putting in our Raptor Light switch. All right, so it's a little tight quarters down here, so I'm just going to walk through what I'm going to be joining together back here. So we have our main switch wires. This just plugs into the back of the switch. Then we have our green wire, which is our 12-volt switched power. The yellow wire is our dash lights. The black wires obviously are ground, and then the other red is the relay. So those will get connected to 3 of these wires. Our black ground coming from the relay, our power, which is the red coming from the relay, and then our white wire that we will be hooking in to the relay as well. Okay, so then what's left here is our yellow wire, and this is our accessory wire. So this is what's actually going to add that backlight to the switch. And we are going to hook this add a fuse into a 7.5 amp accessory slot within our fuse panel. And then we'll just wire that in place. And then we move over to our main power. So we're going to be using this add a fuse as well with a 15 amp fuse. And that's going to be hooked into the main power wire coming from our relay. So we're going to go ahead, start splicing stuff together and getting this set. Okay, we have all our wires connected. I went ahead and just connected the switch temporarily. I'm going to give this a little test quick. Have our power wire that's going back out to the lights in the relay, and then this is our accessory wire that'll light up the switch. So the fuses I'm going to be pulling, for the accessories I'm going to be pulling this 7.5 amp accessory fuse, and then I'm going to be doing the ignition 2 switch, which is this 10 amp fuse here. So both of those I will be pulling and adding an add a fuse to. Okay, so as you can see, I have all my add a fuses connected to the fuse box. I have the ignition key to the on position, and I'm getting a nice blue light, and I can hear the relay kick over when I push the button. So I'm going to go check out the lights and see if everything's working. Lights are working perfect. All right, I'm going to go pop in the switch. Everything is done, and then I'm going to start cleaning up the wires. Okay, we're going to go ahead and feed these wires up behind, pop the new switch in. I've already kind of loosened this up, but you basically just kind of pull right here in the corner really gently and start to release the clips. And you can just kind of pry it just a little bit, just enough to work within. I wouldn't pull much further. You don't want to kind of bend this plastic. So we can just go ahead. I already loosened up this switch, this dummy switch. Pull that out. So it just has clips in it. Just pushes right into place, like so. There it is. Looks just like the other 4Runner stock switches. I'm going to get it wired up, and we're going to clean this up and finish this project. Wow, I'm really happy with how these turned out. That really transformed the front of the 4Runner. Well, that wraps up this project. If you guys really enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you next time.